Okay, I just sat down at my laptop to do, pretty late in the day for me, to do whatever computer activity that I have to get done for the day, including posting an early day video. Again, I'm really behind the ball today. And I saw that my old friend Evan requested a, uh, a video music analysis um, of someone who I am not a fan of at all. I respect. I promised Evan that I have a bit of a unique take on this guy, and I think I do. Um, it's a respectful take, although subjectively it's not flattering at all because I hate listening to this guy's music. I have a pretty funny and slightly dark story related to this guy's music. It's Billy Joel. I was requested to do a video on Billy Joel. Here's my take on Billy Joel and other incredibly, and this is the flattering part of the analysis. Guys like him, they're a rarity. The level of talent that guy has as a piano player, a singer, and a composer, it's second to none. However, I don't know if it's a I don't know if it's a result of bad taste or I don't know, or other factors, a combination of other factors. But that incredible, I think he's a musical genius. His incredible musically gifted genius mind. It just, to me, subjectively, of course, because this guy's got a billion fans, and he deserves it too. Again, he is a genius. To me, though, the product of his musical genius is just awful to me. Incredibly unlikable. I mean, growing up, I had a lot of cool friends, really funny people that I still keep in touch with, thankfully. Really cool guys, edgy guys. Everyone loved Captain Jack. He mentions masturbating in it. It's kind of an edgy, funny song. I always hated it. Maybe for a minute when I was 17, I thought, okay, yeah, I can coexist with Captain Jack. Not anymore. I don't want anything to do with it. And here's my darkly funny story, or funny story with a touch of darkness. When I was 17, I developed very severe and completely debilitating OCD. And my wonderful saintly parents, they tucked me in at night. And this was probably before I was going to the hospital, which I eventually did go to, very quickly went to when I was a teenager. And they knew I loved listening to music, so they'd set up my radio. The OCD was so debilitating that I couldn't engage in simple movements like, I don't know, I had a remote for my stereo. I couldn't pick up the remote and press the proper buttons to switch through the radio stations at the time. At the time, that was my routine. I'd go to bed and I put on FM radio, and I had, I think, 5 stations pre-programmed into my stereo. 92.3 K-Rock, 102.7, 104.3, those awful classic rock stations. Oh man, how I suffered. College radio was truly a godsend for me when I discovered that. As I literally turned the dial left, I literally went left of the dial out of pure desperation. My mental health issues were still very poor after high school, and I would just drive around just to clear my head and just to get out of the house because I couldn't work, I couldn't go out and socialize. Not complaining. Everything's great now, so I'm very grateful for all of it. But I was so desperate just to find something new, something fresh. I always loved music, so I always wanted to discover new sounds and styles. And I literally, and I don't use this word improperly, I rarely use the word literally at all, just so I don't risk joining the horde, which probably goes back at this point about 20 years of people egregiously misusing the word literally. I literally, another way I could phrase that is I physically turned the dial left again and again and again. I went left to the dial, as the old underground rock phrase that is immortalized in the Replacements. Unbelievable, classic, just timeless song, left of the dial, my favorite Replacements song, along with Alex Chilton, another amazing song. I went left of the dial physically until I found what I grew to learn was 91.1 WFMU. It was a college station that was operating from an abandoned college campus, because the college that the radio station originated from had gone out of business, but the radio station was so popular with underground music fans that they continued to operate, and I believe they still do. I think I just got, after my left of the dial journey and discovering WFMU and a couple other college stations, I got very enamored with WFMU. They brand themselves a freeform radio station, kind of like my freeform videos. They just play whatever they want. They have tons of different DJs that cover every. I mean, I have a diverse palette of. I have diverse music taste, so I have a very diverse palette of music in my collection. I don't hold a candle, or I don't hold a eccentrically painted candle. I'm trying to align the metaphor with diversity. Eccentrically painted, uniquely, experimentally designed candle to WFMU's true musical diversity, sometimes for worse. For months, I found the station, and I was just thrilled that I didn't have to hear Living Loving Maid by Led Zeppelin for the 10th time that night. So it was, I kept the station on for months, and all I heard were these long, interminable, insufferable, torturous, ambient, experimental music pieces. I remember I listened to one, it was like 15 minutes long, but it was so refreshing, even though I didn't like it. I still don't like ambient music and super, ultra experimental music like that, in which musical compositional structure is completely abandoned. I don't get it. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Tell me if there's something I'm missing about like super experimental, avant-garde, ambient music in the comments. Enlighten me, and I mean that sincerely. So I would love to buy a bunch of ambient records like Brian Eno's music for Airports, and dig into that again, because I heard it when I was about 20 years old and I didn't like it at all. I would love to embrace a bunch of new music in my life. So please enlighten me to the value of ambient and avant-garde music. So I remember I listened to one torturous, like 15-minute piece, and then the DJ came on. He said that one was called Frankenstein, in a very soft, which I really enjoy, artsy, very slightly effeminate, artsy, gentle voice, which I've always really loved. These days, that character, that personality has been bastardized into a beta male personality, which I don't enjoy very much, because they're caught in between being an effeminate, artsy, wonderful person and a masculine, wonderful, masculine man. One or the other. Everything's a spectrum, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I remember one was called Frankenstein. I thought, wow, that was terrible. And after a few months, I discovered that WFMU not only played this unlistenable experimental music, but they played everything else. They had a punk rock DJ, and he had local punk bands on. He played punk rock classics. They had a typical college rock indie DJ. When the Williamsburg, when the Manhattan, the Strokes-led Manhattan rock boom was happening, she had the Strokes on before anybody knew about them. Right when they were blowing up, they're playing they had their Monday night residency at the Mercury Lounge, which stupidly I didn't go to because I didn't know who they were, even though I saw the ad in the Village Voice, and I saw some band called the Strokes playing every Monday night for the next month and a half. I thought, who are these guys? They probably stink, and I turned the page. I lost out. After I snubbed out Williamsburg and missed out on that scene on the ground floor, because I was in Williamsburg around 1999, a fellow indie music fan tipped me off to Williamsburg that things were happening there. So I went there with a friend. It didn't look like much. I never went back. And when the music started blowing up, bands like Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Liars, I said, I saw the Liars at an early gig. They stunk. And their early stuff does stink. But I was very defensive, very insecure, as people often are when they are faced with something cooler than them. And I missed out. I missed out on some great shows. I could have seen early Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Liars gigs. Oneida, who I just recently got into, I could have seen great gigs from them. I got into that stuff eventually, and I still love it, but yeah, I missed out on a happening. So I vowed never to make that mistake again. I don't care how goofy it looks. I don't care how suspect it appears. I always dig into things when I sense some kind of the moment zeitgeist energy. If I sense a happening, I want to know about it, and I want to decide for myself, from a completely informed perspective, whether or not it is worth my time. So, yeah, she had the Strokes on, yeahs, right when they were blowing up. Liars too, they were on there. They had a really hilarious performance and interview on, not the woman I referred to, another guy's show. I think another kind of like punk or post-punk / indie show. I'm trying to think of the other shows they had. These two funny guys. This one guy's name was Andy. He wrote movie scripts for really bad movies. I heard he wrote the script for Moving by Richard. It starred Richard Pryor. So I was working at a video store at the time, and I'm referencing Easy Video of Hackensack, and I rented Moving. They had it. I was thrilled. Easy Video kind of had the. It had the typical blockbusters, but other than that, its depth as a video rental store, it just had the bottom of the barrel of the movie industry. So they had Moving. Well, I'm speaking of the bottom of the barrel. I rented it. I got through 10 minutes. I thought, wow, this movie's terrible. But the guy, I think his name was Andy. He was so funny on air. What a funny show. Did another show where it was open to anybody who called in. If you called in with this, I think that was nascent internet technology at the time. That's all that existed. They somehow were able to connect every single incoming phone call from 1 to 100 or beyond. You'd be connected right to the air. So I'd call up from Easy Video again. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. A lot of things happened, and at the same time, absolutely nothing happened during my tenure at Easy Video as a clerk. I would call up and I'd be on the air on the radio, saying whatever I wanted, talking with other people that had also called in or connected to the radio wave of that hour. It was wild. Yeah, and they just played every genre of music possible. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember the other shows, but it was awesome. So, college radio. How did I get from Billy Joel to college radio? I'm trying to backtrack a bit here, which is usually a futile effort for me when I start going off in these tangents. It's better for me just to follow the wave and keep going. So I'm just gonna jump back to Billy Joel. Oh, I know how I got there. 17, impaired by OCD. I couldn't move much, so my mom or dad would set up my stereo so I could just lie in bed until I fell asleep and would be free, at least for a few hours, from the torture that my brain was imposing upon me, and I could just listen to music. And I'm about to get to this. I'm about to explain this more thoroughly. Sometimes I could press the single button that would switch between radio stations, but sometimes I couldn't. And I think one night I landed on 102.7, and unfortunately they were playing Billy Joel's Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, along with Hotel California. What else? There's probably a bunch of Beatles songs I throw in there. To me, one of the most disgusting, horrible, just not unlistenable, because these are all, Hotel California, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. Again, Billy Joel is a musical genius. I respect him greatly. I have a sliver of his talent, so he's far beyond me. But man, oh man, just subjectively, just the most awful music ever written. Both those songs make me want to vomit. And I do vomit profusely internally, or metaphorically. And I nearly physically vomit when those songs come on. And my ears can catch their awful noise. So I'm sitting there, I land on 102.7, I immediately get stuck in my OCD madness. I can't move. Scenes from an Italian Restaurant is playing. I am in hell. And I'm being facetious there. I mean, I went through real hell many years later, but, casually, in a funny, humorous way, I was in hell. I thought, oh man, oh please, let me get out of this OCD ritual so I could just change the station. I couldn't get out of it for the entirety of the song. I listened to that awful, how long was it? I'm looking at it right now on my laptop screen. 7 minutes and 35 seconds of casual hell. Oh, awful, awful, awful. I already hated Billy Joel's music, but after that, yeah, it became personal. So, all right, here's my take on Billy Joel. It's a waste of genius for me. I can't get anything out of this guy's music, but every song here, I'm looking at the very popular Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2, Piano Man, perfectly crafted, lyrically, musically, everything. It's got the intangibles too, the atmosphere, the nuance. I mean, come on. The video is kind of corny, but it's perfect. It's amazing art, but I hate it. Again, art functions, art is assessed from two different positions, objective and subjective. Objectively, I am praising Billy Joel to infinity. Subjectively, I'm throwing him in the mud. Because and that's also one of the wonderful things about art, I mean, something that is objectively genius, such as Billy Joel's music, to at least one guy on this earth, me, is awful subjectively to listen to. That's the fun of it. Captain Jack, I referenced that before, great song. The Entertainer, I don't think I heard that too much, but I'm sure it's awful. Say Goodbye to Hollywood, another perfect melody, great theme. I don't know what the lyrics are about. That's a great title, and it sounds like it's the beginning of a great theme for a song. Say Goodbye to Hollywood. New York State of Mind, again, these are classic, iconic songs that have brought so much joy to people's lives. I just hate them. All these songs, they're amazing. Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, well, I'm not going to comment on that. Just the Way You Are, Moving Out, which mentions Hackensack, which is fun. Only the Good Die Young. I think for a minute too, when I was a young teenager, I guess around 13 years old, for a minute I was able to dig Only the Good Die Young. It was kind of manly, kind of had a good old boy's energy. I did a video about a Thin Lizzy song recently. Oh boy, I'm gonna look like a fool here. Gonna ruin my rock and roll credibility. Cowboy Song, the Cowboy Song. I blanked there for a second, and I'm not 100% sure that title is correct. It's one of my favorite all-time songs. I played it with a band. I should know it. Cowboy Song, the Cowboy Song. And in that video, I referenced Thin Lizzy's classic, The Boys Are Back in Town, as well as Warrant's Down Boys. That was a bit of a hot take. And I think I mentioned also Don Henley's Boys of Summer. They talk about like the cool guys in town that are just awesome dudes, and everyone wants to hang out with them. The girls all want to date them. Just awesome guys that you just want to be around. When they're in town, you want to be with them. Only the Good Die Young has a bit of that energy. Now I hate it though. My Life, again, I mean, My Life is almost on par with the Macarena in terms of just having the utmost having the maximum amount. I'm not throwing the sentence together. My Life, what I'm trying to say, it's almost as annoying as the Macarena. Again, the Macarena is a perfectly crafted song too. It's very gimmicky, and it's very much a jingle for about 3-4 minutes, which is awful. They probably owe us something for writing that song and putting it out there. Although those two old guys that are so happy in the video singing the Macarena, I feel so good for those guys. Good for them. Sing some annoying, horrible song, and tons of people love it and dance to it at weddings and bar mitzvahs. They probably made a bunch of money and they had fun. They were 65 years old and lived a rock and roll lifestyle, a rock and roll moment. That's great. But My Life, but Macarena is just, it's just torture. It has the most amount of I'm trying to put this sentence together again to describe the amount of musical annoyingness. I can't get the conjugation right. My brain kept going to annoyance, but that doesn't fit. I don't know. My Life and Macarena, they may be the two most musically annoying songs ever written. It's like someone stabbing a rusty steak knife into your brain. Big Shot, again, another just as annoying as My Life. Big Shot, awful. You may be right. Approaches listenability, but I still hate it. Allentown, again, these are all amazing songs. I just hate them. So yeah, waste of genius. I say the same thing for Hall and Oates. Musical geniuses also. I don't know much Steely Dan, but the little I've heard by Steely Dan, I applied this mixed compliment to them as well. Geniuses that make, to me, unlistenable music. So yeah, I know at one point Billy Joel composed classical music, which doesn't surprise me because he's a genius, and musical geniuses can compose music on that highest level of musical composition. And I think I did listen to his classical music recently, and I hated that too. It stunk. Sergei Rachmaninoff was the last great classical composer. I believe he died sometime in the 1950s. I'm probably way off on that, but I think I'm in the ballpark. After that, I don't know what happened. I guess it was the 60s Marxist revolution and the amazing, but I don't know, in some ways for worse, experimental nature of the rock and roll music that came out of that era. It destroyed foundations like classical music. No one has been able to compose since, although Billy Corgan, I believe, will get there. If you listen to Billy Corgan's masterpiece that he put out last year, Autumn, his rock opera, the theme of Autumn, the opening theme, it's instrumental, very, very sophisticated, very classical. It's truly a piece of classical music. It's amazing. Although it took me a month of listening to it for it to make sense to my ear. That's how sophisticated and complex it is. I'm looking for Billy Joel's classical music. Again, I heard it years ago. It might have actually been more recent than that, maybe within the last couple of years. I thought it stunk. I'm sure it does stink. I'm not even going to bother listening to it. Anyway, I hope this fulfilled the request. Billy Joel. My opinion does not matter at all, and I mean that sincerely, because he's brought so much joy to so many people. He's brought so much more musical joy than I will ever bring to this world, although I'm going to try my best to bring some joy to this world through my music. But to me, subjectively, let's emphasize that word, subjectively, Billy Joel is a waste of musical genius. That's my take. Hope you liked it, Evan.